echoes of the bayou. The bayou hummed its ancient song outside my cabin, a melody woven from the buzz of cicadas, the croak of bullfrogs, and the slow, steady lap of water against cypress roots. It was a sound that could soothe a weary soul or stir up ghosts, depending on the memories you carried. I stood in the doorway, my bad leg aching with a dull, familiar pain, the evening air heavy with the scent of mud and moss. The half-moon cast a pale glow over the swamp, its light fractured in the inky water, a shimmer that felt like a whisper of something I couldn't name. I turned back inside, the floorboards creaking under my uneven steps, and let the door swing shut, the sound a soft echo in the stillness. This cabin, Grandmere's cabin, was home, a place I'd come back to after all these years, a place that held more than just memories. It held secrets, ones I wasn't sure I was ready to face. I'm Risa Williams, the author of Miss Trilla's Travels, a name that's carried my stories to folks from Louisiana to New York. I'm 50-some years old, limping from an old wound that never healed right and known for tales about a woman named Trilla who travels through time to help the hopeless. My books have found their way into libraries, schoolrooms, even prisons, their pages worn by hands seeking hope. I've got letters from readers, stacks of them, thanking me for Trilla's courage. A woman in Texas wrote last year, said Trilla's story of saving a minor in 1910 gave her strength to leave a bad marriage. They don't know Trilla's more than just a character I dreamed up. They don't know about the mirror, the one Grandmere left me, the one that's been sitting on my table since I arrived, its cracked glass catching the light in a way that makes my heart uneasy. They don't know I'm here because I ain't got much time left, an aneurysm, a quiet threat in my head, ready to take me any day. The cabin was a mix of old and new, a balance I'd struck, after fame brought me money I never thought I'd have. When I was a girl, this place was rough, planks weathered gray, gaps in the walls where the wind slipped through, a tin roof that rattled in storms. Grandmere didn't mind. She'd say the swamp provided all she needed. But after Miss Trilla's Travels took off, I poured some of my earnings into fixing it up, keeping its soul while making it livable for a woman like me, who ain't as young as she used to be. The planks were sealed now, stained a warm cedar to keep the rustic feel, but I'd added insulation, a proper generator for electricity, and a small solar panel on the roof, enough to power the lights and a fridge without losing the cabin's heart. The tin roof stayed, its patina a badge of history, but I'd had it reinforced, the leaks patched. Inside, the space was once a room, open and honest, with a bed in the corner. It still had the same iron one Grandmere slept in, though I added 2 sleeping rooms. A wood stove stood against the wall, its iron belly still blackened from years of use, but I'd installed a small electric heater nearby, a concession to my aching bones. The table in the center was the same scarred oak I'd known as a child, my initials, R.W., carved into its edge, but I'd sanded it down, polished it, the wood glowing in the light of a new electric lantern, its glow softer than the old oil one Grandmere used. The shelves along the walls were Grandmere's domain, lined with jars of herbs she'd gathered from the bayou, dried mint, chamomile, sassafras, and things I couldn't name, their scents sharp and earthy, even after all these years. She'd been a healer, a woman who lived by the swamp's rhythms, her hands always busy with some remedy or ritual. I could still see her standing there, her apron stained with berry juice, her fingers crushing leaves as she muttered softly, words I never quite caught, like she was speaking to the swamp itself. She taught me a little, how to brew tea for a fever, how to soothe a cut with honey and yarrow, but there was always a mystery to her ways, a sense that she knew more than she shared. She'd burn sage sometimes, the smoke curling through the cabin, her eyes closed as she hummed, a low sound that seemed to pull the air tighter around us. Keeps the bad away, share, she'd say, her smile small, her gaze distant, like she saw things I couldn't. Folks in town called her a witch, half in jest, half in fear, but they'd come to her anyway, bringing their aches and their troubles, leaving with a jar of something green and a story they'd never quite repeat. I ran my hand along the shelves, the glass jars cool under my fingers, their labels faded, but still in her handwriting neat, careful, the kind of script that spoke of a woman who valued her craft. One jar caught my eye, its contents darker than the rest, a deep red that reminded me of the berries she'd pick at dawn, her basket heavy by the time the sun rose. She'd used those berries for more than just jam, though she never said much about it. Some things need a stronger fix, Risa, she'd say, her voice low, her eyes on the swamp, like it held the answers. I didn't understand then, but the memory made me uneasy now, a shadow I couldn't place, a hint of something I wasn't ready to face. I turned away, my leg giving a sharp twinge, and sat in Grandmere's old rocker, its wood creaking under me, the armrests carved with daisies, their petals uneven but fierce, a mark of her hand, her love. Grandmere had raised me here after Mama and Daddy died in that car crash when I was 9. I could still feel the weight of that day, the telegram on the table, the paper yellowed, the words black and final. Accident. Both gone. I'd clung to Mama's scarf, its silk soft against my cheek, its lavender scent the only piece of her I had left. Grandmere had pulled me close, her arms a shield against the world, her voice a balm as she whispered stories to ease my hurt. She was a small woman, wiry, her hair a silver braid down her back, her hands rough from years of working the swamp, but there was a strength in her, a quiet power that made you listen when she spoke. She'd sit in this rocker, me at her feet, and tell me about Trilla, a woman who traveled through time to mend the broken. Trilla's brave. Share, she'd say, her eyes bright, but she's got to see the cracks to fix them. I'd listen, my knees tucked under me, the swamp humming outside, its song blending with her voice, and I'd dream of being like Trilla, of fixing the world with stories of my own. I'd started writing here, in this cabin, my first Miss Trilla tale scratched out on paper that smudged with my tears, the ink bleeding as I read it to Grandmere by the light of an old oil lamp. She'd smiled, her hand on mine, her voice soft but sure. You've got the gift, Risa, she said. You'll mend the world, one story at a time. I believed her then, believed I could be more than a girl with a limp and a scarred forehead, more than the pain that came after that day I try not to name, the day that left me with seizures and a head that don't always work right. I ain't the writer I was back then, not with my brain playing tricks, but the words still come, rougher now, more like the girl I used to be, the one who spoke the swamp's language before fame polished me up. The cabin felt different now, even with the upgrades. The electricity hummed softly, a modern pulse in a place that still held the swamp's wild heart, but the air was thick with Grandmere's presence, her mystery. I glanced at the table where the cracked mirror sat, its silver frame catching the lantern's glow, the crack in the glass a jagged line that seemed to shimmer, like it held a light of its own. Grandmere had given it to me before she passed, her hands trembling as she pressed it into mine. It's old, Cher, she'd said, her voice low, older than me, maybe older than the bayou. It shows what needs fixin', but you gotta be careful. It's got a mind of its own. I hadn't understood then, hadn't wanted to, but now, with my time running short, I couldn't ignore the way it called to me, a whisper I felt in my bones, a shadow I couldn't shake. I stood, my leg protesting, and limped to the table, the floorboards creaking under me, their sound a reminder of the cabin's age, its history. I picked up the mirror, its weight heavy in my hands, my reflection split by the crack, one side showing me, Risa, the writer, the woman who'd built a life from pain, the other side warped, like a piece of me I couldn't reach, a ghost of who I might have been. The crack seemed to pulse, a faint glow that made my heart race, the aneurysm a quiet threat in my head. I leaned closer, the glass cool against my fingers, and the air thickened, the swamp's song fading to a distant hum. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw something, a shadow, a shape, something that made my breath catch, but it was gone before I could be sure, leaving me with a chill I couldn't shake, a sense that the mirror knew more than I did, that it held secrets I wasn't ready to see. I set the mirror down, its crack still glowing, a faint light that seemed to watch me, to wait. The swamp outside was darker now, the mist thicker, curling around the cypress trees like a shroud, their branches like skeletal hands reaching for the sky, their roots sinking deep into the black water, unyielding as the past. An owl hooted, its cry mournful, and a frog croaked, sharp and sudden, making me flinch, my heart racing again. The air was heavy, like a storm brewing, not in the sky, but in me, a storm I couldn't outrun. I ain't the girl I was when I left this place, but the bayou remembers. It knows the shadows I've carried, the ones I've buried deep. And now, with Grandmere's mirror watching, I knew I'd have to face them, sooner or later. I just didn't know what that would mean, or what the swamp and the mirror had in store for me.